the sakura, the season is different. In general, at the end of the April or the beginning of the May is sakura season in Hirosaki City. This summer near Hirosaki also have many beautiful view. This field art is made by the rice, different color rice. And this, the Mona Lisa, not Mona Lisa. This year is Mona Lisa. This photo I took it maybe 5 years ago. This year, every year, this picture will be changed. This year is Mona Lisa. In the autumn season, have many beautiful, red leaves. Not only in the castle, also in the mountain, have many different colors of leaves. But in the winter is very, heavy snow area in Japan, because it's near the Hokkaido. Of course, it's also very cold. This is the tree always covered by the heavy snow. It looks like the monster. So always in winter, we go to there to have ski. We call this a tree monster. So sometimes different shapes. It's very beautiful. If you don't see this snow, you can visit here in winter. Maybe you can see the snow here and there, especially in the mountain. It's very beautiful. You can go to there to ski and do some winter sports. This is Hirosaki University. Hirosaki University is a small university, not a big university, but it's a national university in Japan. In Japan have 86 national universities. One of them. This is the photo of our groups. You can see in our group have many foreigner students. So this time I want to introduce why we have too many foreign students. That's because I like the international collaboration with different countries. Of course, many of them from China, but also have many students from South Asia, Indonesia students. These are Indonesia students. Also have students from the Thailand. We also have some students from Vietnam and Malaysia. And now we have 22 members in our group. Of course, I'm a professor in this group. We also have 3 guest researchers from the China and from the South Asia. In our group now have 15 PhD students, but only 1 master students, 1 research students. Research students is a special course in Japan university. Maybe after finish the research student stage, we will get into the master course or PhD course. We also have only one undergraduate students. In Japan, for the foreigner students, the important is the money is very important if you live in Japan, because everything is very expensive. So our students, almost all of us students get the scholarship, the Munkasho scholarship. The scholarship, this is a Japanese government scholarship. We have 4 students from South Asia. They got the Japanese government scholarship. Of course, we also have many students get the other countries the national scholarship. For example, in China now, they always support many young students studying abroad. So we have 5 students get such kind of scholarship. Of course, also have many scholarship in Japan. They supported foreign students study in Japan. For some industries, some company, they also have some scholarship to support the foreign students. But in this case, you must know Japanese very well. They hope you study in Japan. Later, after you graduate, you can work in Japan. That's their purpose. For the collaboration, in our group, we collaborated with many university and institute. This in Japan, for example, the University of Tokyo and the Sojo University, the Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology. This is China University, for Taiwan University of Technology, Shenyang University of Chemical Technology, Guangdong University of Technology. Of course, we also have many students from other universities from China. Another is for South Asia. Maybe 10 years ago, cooperated with many professors in South Asia. For example, Bandung, this institute, ITB, is from Indonesia. This university, I have one student working in this university. Now we also have some cooperation project. Another, this is just I have maybe three students now working in Indonesia Institute of Sciences, and they graduate from my group, and later they go back Indonesia, now work there. All of them have a good achievement in Indonesia. And Thai maybe at the beginning, when we set up our lab, we start to collaborate with the Thai University, for Thammasat University, Chulalongkorn University, and Reputed University, and Chiang University. Almost all these foreign universities have signed the MOU with our university. So in this case, we also accept many short-term students studying in our group. And now it's because the COVID-19, these 2 years we stopped this program. But before, every year we always accept 2 or 3 undergraduate students from this university and stay in our group for a short time, for example, 3 months or several weeks, and like this. Because our group now we concentrate for study on the sustainable energy. So our research is always related to the sustainable energy. The main part is for the biomass utilization. For the biomass, it was a kind of renewable energy. One of the main technology, we developed a small scale gas field to change the biomass to syngas. Syngas is hydrogen and CO. If we have these chemicals, we can use it to, for example, for the fuel cells, or also use them to synthesize many kind of chemicals. This gasification of biomass gasification, the main work is to develop the gas field and let it efficient to transfer the biomass to the syngas. Another process, this is let the biomass to change to small molecules. Another process, we use the biomass directly, and because biomass is also a kind of polymer composed of in the biomass have cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. We can use them directly. That's named the biorefinery. Of course, this is a difficult work, but we also consider many methods to transfer the biomass directly to the high valuable chemicals. Another project is use the biocarbon as a materials and use it as the electrode materials. For example, in our group, we also do many research on the secondary batteries. Of course, for the electrode materials, not only the carbon materials, we also develop many other kind of electrode materials. And if you have interest, you can search our papers. You can know we have many papers on the secondary batteries. Another main work in our group is using the renewable energy to do some research. For example, the simple way is the water splitting. That means the water electrolysis to use this process to produce the hydrogen. Another way also use the electricity for the CO2 reduction or nitrogen reduction. For nitrogen reduction, we can get the ammonia, and this now it's not a mature technology, but now many groups also do the similar work. Another is how to use the CO2, because the CO2 issue is the world issue. We not only separate the CO2, we or store the CO2. We should consider how to use it. Of course, use the CO2 have many ways. In our group, we use the electro reduction method to change the CO2 to some high value added chemicals. Now we also consider using this process to produce the uranium, and if we can realize this process, we can use it directly as the fertilizer. Of course, we also do some work like the Professor Jaka, and we also do some electromaterials for fuel cells. But this is not our strong, but we also do some work on this field. Another is a system. For example, using the thermal energy and power energy together, because in our body in the winter, the thermal energy is important. So for example, fuel cell it can generate the electricity. It can also generate the thermal energy. We can use the thermal energy for the the slow melting process. This we also cooperate with some company to do some process like this. For the gasification, for the biomass gasification, we if you search the Google, you can find in the world maybe over 200 kind of gas field have been developed. But in our group, we have our own concept. That's we named it is a separated type gas field. That means the biomass we treat it by pyrolysis process at first. In this, the pyrolysis reaction is a faster reaction. In this case, the biomass will be changed to the, of course, some gas and the tar. The main is the tar. And the tar, we can separate it with the char. In this case, the tar, we can introduce another reactor and let it reforming to get the syngas. The char, we introduce it, we move it to another reactor. We named it char gas field. In this case, we can introduce the steam or introduce a part of the air into it. And the char can be also changed to the syngas. In this case, if the gas separation, we can also get the syngas. In general, syngas is CO and hydrogen. It's like if we have this, we can use the hydrogen for the the hydrogen station. Use for the now have a fuel cell car. They need the hydrogen. That hydrogen we can also get it from the biomass. Of course, if we have it, we can use it for the power generation. Another use it to do some synthesis. We can get many kind of chemical feedstocks like this. But our work is this part. Another is a biorefinery. Biorefinery, it's a very complex process. So we need develop a catalyst. This catalyst should have the high activity. Another is the selectivity. Another is the stability. That's important for the catalyst development. So in our group, we do many kind of the process using different solvent. In general, the main technology is hydrothermal, using the hydrothermal reactor to do this process. But the solvent is important because the biomass itself is a solid state. If we can dissolve it, maybe the reaction rate will be improved. So in this case, we consider using different solvent. And of course, the catalyst was also important. And combine it, we can get different kind of platform chemicals. Such kind of chemical, we can use it to synthesize the bioplastics. This is a very, how to say, the environment friendly materials. Of course, using this process, we can't change the biomass completely to the platform chemicals. They always have many, residues. We use it to prepare the porous carbon materials. We use it for the battery. Of course, we can also use this process to generate the biofuels. Of course, some of the biomass at last they can't change to the high value added chemicals. The residues, we can use our gasification technologies to change it to the syngas. Of course, if you search our group's achievement, you can see we do many work on the allergy related materials. This, of course, here I summarize different materials. For example, these kind of materials, we use it to separate the lithium from the seawater. Of course, the lithium ions in the seawater is very low. In this case, we should develop some new materials to let it to selectively to absorb the lithium, and then let it can be separated from the seawater. This is also one kind of our research. Recently, we have a big project on the bioeconomy innovation hub to realize the carbon cycle society. This project is supported by the Japanese government. It included the 5 tasks. 5 tasks, the main purpose is to, one is development of sustainable biomass materials. Because the biomass in the world, the biomass have many biomass. If in the future, if we wanted to use it, it's not enough. We should consider to develop some biomass. It can grow fast and have high energy density. Of course, this is not my task. Another is develop biomass derived materials. This, just on the biorefinery also in this field. My main job in this project is the development of biomass fuel. Of course, it includes the gas fuels, also including the solid fuel, also including the liquid fuels. In this part is my task. It's like this. Another is the waste recycling system. For example, methane fermentation. With, of course, this is a big project, not only do by our group. It do another by another group. Another is a developed an evaluation method for the social acceptance. And for the new allergy now, we always say it's good, but still not used by everyone. So we should consider this is also very important. This also by one university professor. This project, the name is the short name is GST-COINEX. In fact, these projects we also want to collaborate with the South Asia, the university from South Asia, for Indonesia, Thailand. We also cooperated with some of them. So if in the future, if you have interest, you are also welcome to join this project. In our group now, we concentrate on the hydrogen production from different resources. In Japan, the government have announced by the end of the 2015, we should realize the carbon neutrality. This is their target. But if we want to realize this target, maybe we should do many works. Japanese hydrogen and fuel cell technology are the world's most advanced. So Japan should lead in the world in realizing the hydrogen-based society. In Japan now, the fuel cell cars is developed very fast. Of course, if we want to realize the hydrogen-based society, we should consider where we can get the hydrogen easily and cheaply, like this. But Japan, the resources is not so enough. They should consider the international collaboration. For example, and they have a plan to until the 2030 should set up the international hydrogen supply chain. For example, now in Japan, many companies they collaborate with Indonesia to produce the hydrogen from the coal, and later they transport the hydrogen to Japan. Of course, this is one way. In the future, I think not only hydrogen production from the core, we should consider hydrogen produced from the biomass or from the water directly. So their target is for the cost. I think for the future, if we want to realize the hydrogen-based society, we should decrease the cost. So the target is the 1 kilogram hydrogen. The cost is about $2 or less. We make this. That's important. Another, of course, where we use it. So now in Japan, they have a great plan to set up more and more hydrogen stations. So in the future, they want to replacing the gas stations by the hydrogen stations. Of course, for the for the traffic is how to say, the energy need a large amount of energy. In the future, the car, of course, the electrical car, EV is one choice. Another is FCV. That's a fuel cell vehicles in like this. Another for the family they enlarge the energy farms. Let's use the fuel cell. Fuel cell, fuel cell can generate electricity, also can generate the thermal energy. So we can use the heat and the electricity together. So now in Japan, in the new how to say, the new homes, they always introduce such kind of system. So the target is replace the other energy system by the energy farm. Energy farm, that's a farm can generate energy. And then next is that's their consideration. So for our group, we wanted to produce hydrogen from different resources. So one way is produce in our group, produce the hydrogen from water. Water now we consider using the unstable renewable energy, for example, the wind energy or solar energy, and use them to do the hydro and then the water splitting to get the hydrogen. Another is from the biomass. Biomass, of course, biomass have many types. We wanted to use the biomass waste. That means the biomass residue. Use it to produce the hydrogen from biomass. That's one of our main research topics.
Excuse me, Prof. Iwan, maybe 5 more minutes.
Okay. I will introduce it fast. Yeah, okay. So for international collaboration activities, I want to introduce, one is introduce our university at first. So for Hirosaki, just like I also introduced it, so I jump it. So our university is not a big university, only about 6,500 students, but only more than maybe only about 150 foreign students study here. But the faculties is not so many faculties, and then the strongest faculty is the medicine. It's medicine but I belong to this, the Faculty of Science and Technology. For the graduate schools, have also not so many. So for the students, if you want to study in Hirosaki University, we have the short-term program. As the name says, exchange program. For example, can stay here for a short time, and mainly for study the Japanese language or Japanese culture. Another summer program. That's using the how to say the this now have stopped this program, but it changed to online program. For the if you want to get the degree in our university, it's better to apply some scholarships. Of course, in Japan have Japanese government scholarship, another kind of privately funded international students. They get some support from the government, overseas government scholarships. Of course, also have many privately funded students. They supported by the some Japanese prefectural governments or private organizations. So if you want to study in Japan for the undergraduate student, Japanese should be good, because in Japan, how to say, many courses taught by the Japanese, not English. For the master students, also Japanese should be good. This maybe only in our university. Our university, they need the Japanese level. But for PhD students, if you know English, it's okay. So our university now have 54 partner universities around the world. Our group, we have many foreign students studying. Now, here, I show you to date, I have 26 foreign students got a PhD degrees. 5 got the master degree, 1 get a bachelor degrees. Maybe until now, more than 19 foreign students visit our group. We also accept 3 JSPS postdoctoral fellows, about 20 visiting scholars from South Asia, China, and other countries. So now we have, just like I introduced here, we accept 10 from a student from Indonesia, 1 from Malaysia, 16 from the Thailand, 2 from India, 1 from the Vietnam, others almost from the China, including Taiwan. So we also applied the Sakura Science Plan. This supported by the Japanese government. About 80 students with our group, supported by this plan. Of course, for students get the scholarship is important for them. So for cooperation with South Asia, here I show is Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and Vietnam. Yeah. So for achievement, now we cooperate with too many foreign professors, and the tutors for the papers. The tutors set over 10,000, and now the actual intake is about 15. The international co-authors, we published about 400 papers, about half co-author with the other international co-authors. For impact factor, maybe over 10, it's about 70. So in the future, if we consider collaboration project, we can apply. Maybe later I will submit to you. This is how to see the site. You can see it, because now we have not enough time to introduce it in details. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Guan, for your presentation, your introduction to Hirosaki University and about Japan, and about research in your laboratory, especially about biorefinery, syngas production, carbon cycle society, and hydrogen-based society. It's amazing. So if any of the participants have any question for Prof. Guan, please put it in the comment section now. Maybe you want to ask about program in Hirosaki University, about summer program and anything else, please put your question in the comment section, and we will discuss it after all the presentation is done. So once again, thank you for Prof. Guan.
Okay, thank you. I will share this PPT tour. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So we move on to the next presentation will be delivered by Professor Raymond Tan from the Department of Chemical Engineering, De La Salle University, Manila in Philippines. I have its correct pronunciation for De La Salle University. Good morning, Prof. Raymond.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thanks very much for the introduction.
Okay, maybe I will do a short introduction for Prof. Raymond. He obtained his BS, MS, and PhD from De La Salle University, and currently he is Vice President for Research and Innovation. His research interests include carbon management, networks, and process system engineering. So without further ado, to Prof. Raymond, please, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me share my slides first. Thank you once again for inviting me. My lecture is about research networking and collaboration in my area, which I would call computational carbon management. My brief lecture is divided into two parts. First, I'll talk about my own research with particular focus on some of the recent work and recognition in carbon management. But the second half of the lecture, I've organized it into 6 keys or suggestions for aspiring young researchers in the audience to use networking and research collaboration to improve their career prospects. So let me begin by introducing myself and my work. I am from De La Salle University, which is in Manila, Philippines. And we are a private, comprehensive, non-stock, non-profit Catholic university, which has recently experienced more serious research growth. In particular, since 2010, we've had rapid growth in our research output across different disciplines. Now, as previously mentioned, I'm actually currently the Vice President for Research and Innovation, in addition to being a professor of chemical engineering. And what that means is I've actually been able to see both aspects of research collaboration from a management perspective and from the perspective of an academic staff. And I'll begin by pointing out that if we look at university rankings, research plays a very important role in the scores that universities receive. So if you look at Times Higher Education, for example, a large proportion of the score is based on research metrics, which will include a research reputation survey, research funding, research productivity as measured in terms of volume of publications. Research citations are very heavily weighted in the rankings because they measure the intellectual influence of the research being done in an institution. But at the same time, research collaboration as measured by co-authored papers also gives additional score for institutions. And this is a global ranking system which is widely accepted, and it does speak of the importance of international cooperation as part of scientific research. Now, the problem for academic staff is all of us need to perform a balancing act, considering the demands for research, for teaching classes. Some of us may be given management jobs as dean, as head of department and such. And of course, the work-life balance must be preserved to ensure a healthy career and a healthy life in general. So how do we manage these? one of the ways by which we can optimize our results, given that we all have constraints, 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, is that research collaboration actually allows us to be more productive and more scientifically influential, given the same amount of effort. And I'll tell you my story as we proceed. About 90% of my research is motivated by the issue of climate change, which is the 13th United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. This is a global environmental issue which is now considered to be almost at practically at crisis level at the moment. And for most of my recent scientific career, I've focused a lot of my work in dealing with or trying to help mitigate climate change through discovering new algorithms and new computing techniques. So this is my profile. I'm a distinguished professor and university fellow at my university, currently appointed as Vice President for Research and Innovation, and that's a job which takes up perhaps 80% of my working time. So I have 20% of that left for my own academic and research interests. I have managed to be reasonably successful, and in particular, in 2017, with some collaborators from Malaysia and from India, we launched the journal Process Integration and Optimization for Sustainability, published by Springer Nature. And it has grown into a young but dynamic and very promising journal for the future. But I'm also engaged in the management in lower capacities as associate editor or editorial board member of other journals. And again, my areas of interest include carbon management networks, process systems engineering, process integration, process graph, and computing techniques like life cycle assessment and input-output models. I would classify my research under what is known as process systems engineering, alternatively known in Europe as computer-aided process engineering. And this is an area where we develop and use computing techniques to solve various industrial problems. And the toolbox involves families of computing techniques that range from mathematical programming, which is the bulk of the literature, techniques such as pinch analysis, graph theoretic computational tools, and more recently, artificial intelligence and machine learning, all fall under the process systems engineering umbrella. Within this sub-area of chemical engineering, I've managed to make a significant contribution going back to 2005 with my longtime collaborator, the person with whom I've had the most international collaboration, Professor Dominic Fu of University of Nottingham in Malaysia. And when we were much younger men in 2005, we published a paper in Energy, which was the seminal paper on carbon emissions pinch analysis, which has since grown into the field of carbon management networks optimization. And of course, in the years since, our work has spawned dozens of follow-up papers, book chapters, and even a book which was published in 2020. And of course, to this day, we continue to collaborate. And we even managed to get a PhD student through the pandemic. We had a PhD student that we jointly supervised who joined us in the beginning of the pandemic, and he finished his degree basically in the middle of the pandemic, working on the latest extension of carbon management optimization. Now, some of the distinctions that have resulted from the hard work going back multiple decades include last year, I'm especially proud of this, Reuters published the list of the 1,000 most influential climate researchers in the world, of which I was listed as well. And of course, I've managed to be listed in some regular rankings, including a list which is published by a team from Stanford University and Elsevier as well on a periodic basis. So that's the success that results from many decades of hard work and being able to collaborate with the right people. Now, our work in carbon management has actually been recognized as a major contribution to the field of chemical engineering. So for instance, in 2019, the IChemE publication, The Chemical Engineer, featured our work on carbon emissions pinch analysis. This was in preparation for the ensuing international discussions on climate change. And in 2020, the IChemE listed or published a virtual special issue of the 31 most important climate-oriented papers in the IChemE journals. And of the 31 papers that were listed, 3 of those were my own work with various collaborators, including PhD students. And of course, as I mentioned, I'm involved in the management of some fairly significant journals, including Process Integration and Optimization for Sustainability. I've been an editorial board member of Springer's Clean Technologies and Environmental Policy for 15 years. And there are some more recent journals, including IChemE's Sustainable Production and Consumption. And in 2020, Elsevier launched Cleaner Engineering and Technology, which is a new open access journal that has recently been listed in Scopus. So please feel free to contribute your best work to any of these journals in the future. Now, I spoke of the pandemic recently. With the miracle of modern technology, we're actually able to continue a lot of our computational research, even during the height of the lockdown. So this is a project which was led by Dr. Michael Short of the University of Surrey in the UK. I was involved here in the supporting role. The lead university, Surrey, was cooperating with the University of Tokyo, with Professor Yasunori Kikuchi, and Professor Dominic Fu in Malaysia, in Nottingham. And of course, my university and my team was involved in supporting role. And a lot of the work, really, conceptualization, proposal preparation, and the actual execution of the research, once we got the funding, was done primarily via Zoom, although the PhD student who was responsible for the bulk of the work, our student, was able to make a 1 or 2 month trip to the UK towards the end of 2021. And one of the work which is recently published is this short paper in Nature Computational Science, where we map out the future for computing optimal carbon dioxide removal portfolios. So that is a brief description of my profile as a researcher. Now, what I'd like to do next is tell the story of some of the things I had to do to be able to reach this stage of my career. And I hope to share these with young researchers to help you succeed. So these are the 6 key elements: international exposure, web presence, a strong professional network, eventually leading to research teams, and finally, of course, establishing both a comparative advantage, I'll speak more of that later, but at the same time, making your research portfolio future-proof. What does all this mean? We'll go through these one at a time. Number 1 is it is absolutely essential to get international exposure. The scientific enterprise is a global enterprise, and it's important for us to think beyond national borders. And one of the ways to do this, obviously, is to get, particularly early in your career, international exposure via postgraduate studies. Or if you're a local student, you can probably do a research attachment overseas through your PhD supervisor's professional network and contacts. Another option is to do a postdoc, ranging from a few months to a few years. if that is not possible, short-term research fellowships overseas, ranging from a few weeks to a few months, summer schools or winter schools would help develop that international outlook. And of course, regular participation in conferences, not just for young researchers, but for old and mature ones like myself, is absolutely essential. So this was me as a younger man, almost 2 decades ago. I did a research attachment, not in a university. This was an industrial research consortium institute, which was then based in the Netherlands. They have since transferred to Italy, but the International Flame Research Foundation was kind enough to host me as a researcher when I was much younger, and I did work on various CO2 capture and storage techniques. And some of what I learned during this research attachment would drive some of my interests many years later. The second step is establishing web presence. And of course, this is especially true nowadays. When I started out as a PhD student in 1999, the internet was in its infancy. But now it's absolutely essential that you have a web presence to make your career grow. And by web presence, that includes your footprint in scientific databases like Scopus or Web of Science, even the open access databases like Google Scholar. And of course, you can expand or extend your reach beyond scientific circles using social media like YouTube and Twitter. So this is, for example, my Google Scholar profile, and this automatically updates itself most of the time. But it is a way by which potential collaborators would get to know you or do background check if there are offers for collaboration. And of course, journal editors would also look through these databases to find reviewers who can help them process submitted manuscripts. But it is essential that this kind of visibility be part of your plan. Now, beyond the scientific databases, of course, one of the ways by which we reach non-specialist audiences is social media. So, for instance, you can use Twitter and use that to disseminate your peer-reviewed scientific work to a larger audience, which could include the media. These could include the people in industry or in governments who need scientific advice for various issues. Now, the third component is building a professional network. I cannot overstate rather the importance of having such a professional network to help you create opportunities for yourself. And it's basically all about who you know and who knows you. And in fact, a very good example is I'm here with you this morning giving this lecture primarily through a professional network. Prof. Jaka was kind enough to invite me. And of course, I'm always happy to share my story if it helps some young researchers develop their careers. And how do you do this? Number one is conferences. This is the best venue to meet people and have semi-formal or informal discussions about the future. And the face-to-face contact, mind you, since the pandemic, I actually have not traveled, but I've attended online conferences. I plan in the coming months to resume my traveling ways, but I've been basically stuck in the Philippines since late 2019. Nevertheless, face-to-face conferences provide opportunities to meet new people and to exchange information. And once the initial friendship has been established, it becomes easier to continue the collaboration via the internet, via email, via messenger apps like WhatsApp. And of course, it still pays to have the occasional face-to-face meetings where you fly to your collaborator's country and or vice versa, provided that the conditions and funding allows. So again, I found, for example, this conference, which I've been attending since 2008, has been instrumental in meeting the other important researchers in my area. And as you can see, there's a social aspect to it. These people become your friends as well as collaborators, and they read your papers, they review your papers, and you do the same for them. Now, once you have a network of people in your sub-area or discipline, a subset of these people become part of your research team. And depending on the nature of your research, it may be easier or more difficult. I happen to work in a computational field, so it's much, much easier to collaborate online. But it is to be emphasized that most scientific research nowadays is done via team effort, number one. And number two, about approximately 1 out of 3 scientific papers published nowadays will have authors from multiple countries. And therefore, it's becoming the norm that people work not just from within national confines, but they work together to try to solve global problems and use their unique contributions to cover each other's what you would call blind spots. So be open to collaboration opportunities, but at the same time, you have to understand that you need to have a specific contribution or specific skill that your collaborators will value. For instance, being able to do specific things, or being familiar with the state-of-the-art literature, that sort of, or coming up with new ideas. Whatever happens to be your core strength is what you contribute to a research team. And again, more on these later, but team effort leads to joint publications, which generally are of higher quality. This is especially true if you measure via citations. Higher quality, higher influence than papers that are done by small and localized research teams. And what you're also able to do by joint research is to spread the work out over a larger number of people. And that means that it becomes possible to, if you're a busy person, like a head of a department or a dean, it should become possible to squeeze into the gaps in your management schedule some productive research work, especially if you have a support team. And through brainstorming and by bringing different cultural, I shouldn't say biases, but cultural ways of thinking, if you bring that to a table which is multicultural and highly diversified, it becomes easier to come up with bright ideas for new research directions in the future. So how do you organize an effective research team? I would encourage all of you to try to find this article, which was published in 1959 by MIT Technology Review. It's only about 1,000 words long, so it's a very quick read. This was advice that was given to the US government at the time on how to brainstorm for military defense purposes. But I think a lot of the advice given applies to current 21st century research teams. And if I may distill the highlights, the best practices of organizing research teams: you must be problem-oriented. It's important to have informal, very open atmosphere for discussion. So for instance, in my research teams, we make it a point to not call each other Prof. Raymond or Dr. So-and-so and what have you. But I think to open up free discussion, it's important that people call each other by name and discuss as equals. It's important for any given project or initiative, there needs to be someone leading the group. So if you think of a football team, there's always a player who leads the strategy for any given match. It's very good to have external collaborators, again, to bring in a different perspective from a local team, whether it's in Philippines or Indonesia or some other country. But if you bring in someone from the outside, that helps bring some diversity of thinking. And in addition to diversity of culture, it's important to bring in people with different mindsets. So some of those free thinking kind of people who are more out-of-the-box thinkers, as opposed to some people are more disciplined and more organized. But it's like a football team, you can bring different styles into the same team and they end up reinforcing each other's strengths. Now, some of the pitfalls to avoid when you have research teams attacking different research problems is lack of leadership. If nobody knows who's leading, then very often it degenerates into a bit of chaos. Lack of problem focus, obviously. And there's a problem when you bring a team where everyone thinks in the same way with the same biases, and you develop something called groupthink. And very often that becomes very uncreative. Whereas if you introduce diversity deliberately into your research teams, you can come up with very good ideas for stronger research. Now, number 5, it's important to build what's known as comparative advantage or competitive advantage. And my own rule of thumb when I give advice to young researchers is you should spend about 80% of your time cultivating a core research area. This is the research area where you develop your main profile or footprint in the scientific world. And this is the area where you can best train your students. These are, for example, master's or PhD students. And in my case, it's computational carbon management. Different systems engineering techniques geared towards reducing industrial greenhouse gas emissions. And this work of mine goes back almost 2 decades, and I've established global credibility and influence in this area. But at the same time, it's also important that in addition to that 80% that I just spoke of, the other 20% should be dedicated to ensuring a bit of diversity in your own research portfolio. So I would advise anyone, including mature researchers, to spend 20% of your energy and time exploring new possibilities and new opportunities. That is important because it also leads to, in addition to giving some variety to your research, it also will hedge against obsolescence. It's entirely possible that over the course of a multi-decade academic career, your core research area might eventually become saturated or obsolete. So having a 20% free exploration of other areas would give you a chance to, if that ever happens, to shift your research direction to a different area. And sometimes you're able to capitalize on very contemporary developments. So for example, here's a paper I'm especially proud of, which is published with a team from Brno University of Technology, Prof. Klemesh and Dr. Fang, and a colleague who was then in A-STAR in Singapore, Dr. Zhang. And we started this in the very early days of the pandemic in March 2020, and we were all locked at home and not really sure what to do next. So we decided to make productive use of our time. This is a paper which was eventually published fairly rapidly in Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews, which is a journal with an impact factor of 16.8, much higher than the impact factor back in 2020. We were surprised that this specific article actually was reviewed by 11 referees who probably were locked at home doing nothing as well, because they all agreed to review the paper, and we had 11 sets of comments to deal with. But this is a paper that dealt with 2 hot topics. Plastic pollution was hot to begin with, and then there was COVID-19 and its implications on adding to the plastic pollution mess. And this has become a very successful paper. Since its publication in mid-2020, we have about 400 citations in Scopus, 600 in Google Scholar, and with many more coming in the future. Now, similarly, just before the pandemic, I started doing work which began with a dinner time conversation in Rome after a conference. with my colleague, Professor Cabezas, based in Hungary. And when I came back home, this was late 2019, just before the pandemic, we started working on graph theoretic models for ecosystems, and we had a paper published in PLOS ONE initially in 2020 and earlier this year in Nature Sustainability, applying these computing techniques to sustainable food production. And there's follow-up work in this field, and this is where we were able to capitalize on the new working environment where the meetings were being held online. There were tight restrictions on physical travel, so to some extent that actually helped our efficiency because we spent a lot of time doing the actual research rather than commuting back and forth from home to the university and such. So these are, again, the 6 elements to cultivating research, networking, and collaboration as a stepping stone towards research success. So now I proceed to my conclusions. Just 3 very quick points. Scientific research is essential to global sustainability. The solutions of the future will come from the research labs of today. Young researchers should invest in their career development, even as they balance the demands of their jobs and their families. You have to invest in your own career development with a multi-decade time horizon. And one of the tools that you should capitalize on is networking, eventually leading to research collaboration, because that can definitely, as I've seen from my own experience, that can enrich your career. So I'm going to conclude with a quick plug. My team is co-hosting a virtual conference, International Conference on Low Carbon Asia next month. Please, if you're interested, please register and join us. This will be done fully online. And I thank you for your attention. I look forward to the discussion during the open forum. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Raymond, for your amazing presentation about your research, about carbon management optimization, and about 6 keys to building research career for young researchers. So if any of the participants have a question for Prof. Raymond, please put it in the comment section. Maybe some of you have already put the question. We will talk about it in question and answer session. Once again, thank you, Prof. Raymond. Okay, our last presentation will be delivered by Prof. Jing Zheng Ren from the Department of Industrial and System Engineering, Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Good morning, Prof. Ren.
Good morning.
So maybe I will give a short introduction for
Thank you.
your profile. Prof. Ren is currently an associate professor at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University and also honorary associate professor at the University of Southern Denmark. His research centered upon sustainability-oriented decision-making, energy, and environmental policy. Maybe for the more complete profile, I will give it to Prof. Ren. So, Prof. Ren, please. The time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the nice talk of Professor Guan and also Professor Tan. I can see that. I think for this kind of forum, it is also a good opportunity for us to collaborate. I can see that I have many overlaps. The research have some overlaps with that of Professor Guan, although his research mainly focuses on environmental studies for how to convert biomass or the other kind of waste into energy or value-added products. For my research, mainly focuses on some theoretical aspect about process, simulation, design, and optimization. And also, thanks for the nice talk of Professor Tan. I can see that we both serve as the editor of sample production and consumption. And also, we have many friends, the same friends, front-end Professor Fu and also other friends, according to the photo shared by him. Today, my talk about towards sustainability transition and BCG economy. an interdisciplinary collaboration approach. So today, I would like to share my experience on international academic and research collaboration towards Untitled. I would like to share how I have used a multidisciplinary tool to achieve Untitled transition and BCG economy, namely the bio, circular, and green economy, and how I collaborate with the patterns of different fields from different countries or regions to achieve Untitled transition and BCG economy transition. Actually, my research was motivated by economic globalization, the depletion of non-renewable resource, pollution of air, water, and soil, and with the problem of global warming become more and more serious. No choice we have. We have to insist on sustainable demand to promote the harmonious demand of economy, environment, and society. And we have to go on the bio, circular, and green economic model to solve all these problems. In order to promote the sustainable industrial system, there are various challenges. Sometimes the complexity, especially it is a very complex problem with intensive exchange of resources, energy, materials, and water, and other information. And there are various uncertainty and data elimination problems. And also in my mind, sustainability is a much-scale concept. If we want to achieve no matter the 3 dimensions of sustainability or to achieve the UN SDG goals, we need to consider its sustainability performance at different scales. Actually, my research aims to recognize economy, environment, and society as a whole by using the tools belong to process system engineering and sustainability engineering. We would like to develop some mathematical tools and combine it with some tools belong to the chemical engineering to solve the problem. Sometimes we combine LCC, and SLC, namely life cycle assessment, to investigate the environmental performance, life cycle costing to investigate the economic performance, and social life cycle assessment to investigate the social performance. After obtaining all the primary data, then we will combine it with some more advanced mathematical tools, no matter about multi-correct decision-making, multi-objective optimization model, and also some bigger data analytic model to achieve circular economy, industrial biosis, and material efficiency improvement with 3 objectives. The first one, process integration for sustainable production. The second, process simulation and analysis for sustainable process. And third objective aim to achieve life cycle assessment for achieving sustainable product. So in one word, we aim to develop a theoretical foundation for mass-scale circular economy by combining chemical processing engineering and industrial ecology. Actually, my research ranged from process unit to plants, sites, and enterprise, aim to achieve resource and energy efficiency improvement, sustainability improvement, and finally to achieve circular economy, with including sustainable production, sustainable process, and sustainable product. And for the first one, how we can achieve sustainable production. We use the tools for tasks, process integration, sustainable supply chain design, superstructure, and various MILP models and industrial basis concept to achieve the so-called globally sustainable. But for each process, we aim to use the tools belong to PSE, including process simulation, analysis, design, and optimization, and some sustainability-oriented system design and optimization tools, and also various economic, environmental, social, and some other to achieve comprehensive analysis of different processes, then to determine which one is the most suitable to achieve locally sample. And the last one, about sample product, we use also various tools to select which one is the most sample product if there are different alternatives. So we aim to achieve globally sample through different tools, and also different to use or to determine the most sample process or the most sample product when there are various alternatives. Sometimes we will incorporate economic, environmental, and social objectives and criteria simultaneously. Sometimes we also consider sometimes the technical, policy, and also political aspect in process or product selection. Okay, so we aim to achieve mass-scale, multidisciplinary, and multiple stakeholder approach to use this 3M approach to achieve sustainability transition. Okay, actually my work aims to combine the hard technology with soft science. My work can be divided into two parts. The first is to use the system thinking to promote some demand. Especially, we have developed various sustainability-oriented assessment and decision-making tools to help the decision-maker and stakeholder to make informed decisions on the different conditions. And second, I am to develop some sustainability-oriented design and optimization tools to redesign the process or to improve the process with the condition of economic, environmental, and social objectives simultaneously. And the second part, my work is about to develop some innovative processes for converting waste into any or high value added product. Different from the nice work of Professor Guan, we only focus on the theoretical aspect, how we can use the computer aided tool to develop some innovative process. Sometimes with the condition of carbon dioxide utilization, and with the condition of how to use the secondary waste, then to achieve their waste and carbon neutral process. And finally, we aim to turn waste into value-added product in an environmental friendly, cost-effective, and socially acceptable way. So we also consider economic, environmental, and social aspect in our process design. Actually, so what is system thinking for sustainability transition? I would like to introduce a well-known set of very well-known Chinese ancients, okay, Zhuangzi. He have said, heaven and the earth live together with me. Everything and I are one. So actually, there are different explanations for this sentence. Actually, to me, he taught me how to use system thinking to solve the problem in industrial engineering for sustainability or BC economic transition. Okay, actually, you can see in this sentence, heaven and the earth represent, yes, the nature, okay? Me represent human. Everything, of course, include industry. So he taught me and taught us, okay, how we can handle the complex relationship between nature, among nature, human, and industry. So we, in order to promote sustainability transition, we need to recognize the nature, human, and industry as a whole, rather than independent. Okay, so the uniqueness of my work is that I always recognize human, industry, and nature as a whole, and also recognize economic, environmental, and social goals as a whole. And also we need to solve the economic, environmental, and social problems simultaneously. So with the concept of multiple objectives, including economic, environmental, and social, also technical, sometimes the energy efficiency. We also need to consider multiple stakeholders, sometimes the investor, the government, the industry enterprise, the supplier, the user, and other stakeholders We also need to consider multiple scale, okay, process scale, life cycle scale, supply chain scale, enterprise scale, and also national scale, and also regional scale, also global scale. So how to achieve sustainability demand. And also we need to consider multiple of integration among different objectives. Okay, I can give you an example. For instance, the energy efficiency, which belongs to technical objective. Energy efficiency will influence the objective in economic and environment objective. For instance, if we improve the energy efficiency, it can help to reduce carbon dioxide emission and also to lower the environmental impacts and also to reduce operating costs. Okay, so we have developed various tools for smart decision making and also policy making on the different kind of conditions with the condition of economic, environmental, and social goals simultaneously. Okay, I would like to show one of our projects. Okay, we aim to achieve BCG sample BCG economy. Firstly, we will use the some simulation tool, chemical process simulation tool, for instance, Aspen Plus and Pro 2, and some other tools, to develop different processes for convert waste into energy or high value added products. Okay, we can develop process 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then through then we will have rigorous simulation of all the processes based on the first principle. After that, we can get all the best data with respect to economic, environmental, and social criteria. Then we will have life cycle decision making and system analysis with the condition of economic, environmental, and social impact to determine which one is the most sample process. In addition, from the regional level, also the national level, we will want to have a province in China or the whole China, how to planning the whole biomass to energy or value-added production to achieve sample demand with the condition of economic, environmental, and social goals simultaneously. Okay, second part about, I think all of us have ever heard a very well-known Greek myth, the so-called Midas touch. It says that a man with superpower, he can turn everything into gold. He just needs to use his finger to touch. For that touch the gold, he can turn the gold into turn the stone into gold. Okay, in our work, we do not have the superpower of the superpower, but we can also try to turn waste into wealth. But then we have to develop the carbon neutral and zero waste oriented process to achieve 100% waste recycling by incorporating economic and also environmental and social goals simultaneously. Okay, so they can apply it in green economy, circular economy, and bioeconomy. Okay, one typical example is that for instance, during the COVID-19 period, okay, when the pandemic is serious, okay, every day for instance in Hong Kong or in mainland China, okay, there are various large amount of face masks will be generated. Okay, so how can we convert the used mask into value-added product? We have developed various tools by combining with the basic process, for instance, gasification, pyrolysis, and we also combine it with some upgrading technologies to achieve the utilization of carbon dioxide and also the secondary waste. Okay, in our process design and optimization, we also consider economic, for instance, the net present value, environmental aspect, for instance, the global warming potential, and also the added job and the social objectives in our process. Okay, so one of the typical characteristic of our work is that we will have a rigorous simulation on all the processes based on the first principles. Okay, this is another example how we can transfer the sewage sludge into methanol. We collaborate with different from different fields. Currently, we would like to achieve the commercialization and industrialization of the process. How we can convert sewage sludge into methanol, okay, into a kind of value-added product. Of course, we need to collaborate with researchers from different fields. from especially chemical engineering, who did some experiments can help us to validate the process proposed by us. In addition, we need to collaborate with some research from marketing, from management science, from policy. We will consider how we can achieve commercialization and industrialization of the process at large scale. Okay. In addition, we also develop various process how to convert not only COS life but also front-end polyether into value-added product. Actually, in order to achieve sustainability transition, I would like to propose a so-called multi-X framework to achieve sustainability-oriented transition or decision. Multi-actor. We need to consider the preference, the consent, the requirement of investor, government, NGO, user, and all readers, and all some other stakeholders. Multidimensional. We need to consider not only the three main pillars of sustainability, economic, environmental, and social. We also need to consider political, technical, and cultural dimension because they are interacted and interdependent. We need to consider to achieve sustainability in a multi-level approach, at regional level, at the national level. We also need to consider the mass scale and also mass pathway to promote sustainability. And also we need to consider how about the performance into different sectors. So these are so-called multi-X framework, okay? So in order to achieve this, of course, we need to collaborate with the research from different fields. For example, currently we collaborate with the scientists from computer science. We use digital twin how to achieve process optimization, especially to achieve the high energy intensive process optimization, how we can optimize the process to achieve energy saving and emission mitigation. Okay, how about my collaboration? Of course, as you can see in my work, we usually need to use multiple disciplinary tools to achieve all these objectives. I usually collaborate with, I'm from the Department of Industrial and System Engineering. I usually collaborate with a researcher from front-end chemical engineering, environmental engineering, energy engineering, from open research, from applied mathematics, but policy management science, okay? Actually, luckily, I have operated to collaborate with many researchers from different countries and also publish paper together with them, and also have some teaching activities for the young researcher. Of course, I'm also young, okay, with some young researcher or young leaders from different countries. So my next step, I would like to promote, okay, we would like to develop some smart platform or some mobile app to with the function of sustainability-oriented decision making to help different economy to achieve scientific decision making and smart policy making. Then we would also we have some waste to end process because I'm a chemical engineer before my PhD, and also currently I'm an assistant or associate professor in university. So we would like to also develop the waste to end process for demonstration and for industrialization and also for both sample future. So now I would like to summarize how do I have collaboration across. To me, I think that across different countries, to me, communication collaboration are essential, okay, in my work. And also I like working with researchers from different fields. And also I like to combine hard technology with soft science. And I have also get an interview with the journalists from APEC, okay? And also I tell them that I also collaborate intensively with the members of APEC because in my mind, they can help me to do something that I cannot do. For instance, to collect some primary data, to verify the result of simulation, and promote the process at policy level. And also, one have his strengths and also weakness. So we can use the strengths of others to help us to overcome our own weakness. So no one can solve the problem alone. So I suggest we could work together with others to solve the great challenge. Okay, actually, to me, I think that collaboration, especially collaboration between the researcher from developing country origin with the researcher from the developed country, okay, are very important, because new problems in developing countries can help the researcher in both developing and developed countries origins to create new theories, and the new theory, new model, new thinking, new method can help to solve the problem existing in all countries. So in my mind, knowledge sharing is 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So how collaboration can bring benefits for you, for all the researchers, I would like to summarize in 4E. Viability. It means collaboration means enough resource and enough data. For now, in my research, do something about simulation and optimization, I really need the data. So I need to collaborate with the researcher who did some solid experiment studies, and also some researchers who focus on environmental science, about policy. And affordability. Collaboration means more lab and more intelligence. And accessibility. It means that, okay, a new theory, it can have a new theory to be accepted by the researcher from different countries, different fields. And awareness, be awareness of some new problems. Sometimes some problem maybe does not exist in Hong Kong, but it may exist in some other cities or in some other countries. So it is a way to help to increase the awareness of some new problems. Actually, I'm also get some benefits from collaboration with researchers, especially the researcher from APEC, some APEC member economies. Actually, luckily, I just won the 2022 APEC Science Prize for Innovation Research and Education. Not only because of my research, it's also because of my collaboration with the researchers, the scientists from different APEC member economies. And also, I think that I'm lucky. I have the opportunity to collaborate with them, just like I mentioned before, okay? I can find some new problems from different APEC member economies. And also, this new problem inspired me to develop some new model, new theory, and also with some new thinking. As for the joint research opportunity and scholarships, okay, I would like to say that welcome of you to recommend some excellent candidates to do research and study in Hong Kong or in mainland China. For now, we have the National Science Foundation of China. There would be many joint grants funded by National Natural Science Foundation of China with some other countries, and also joint grants funded by IGC in Hong Kong, China with some other countries or region. And also we have Hong Kong PhD Fellowship, and also Hong Kong PhD Fellowship, and also postdoc fellowship, and also Hong Kong Scholar Program. And for the fellowship, okay, every month the PhD student can receive around, let me see, around 26,000 Hong Kong dollar, come to how much USD? Let me see, around 4,000. 4,000 USD. Okay, per month. Actually, it's not so. It's good enough for a student to live in Hong Kong, and also can also save some money. So, by the way, if you have some good candidates, okay, welcome to recommend them to come to Hong Kong to go on their PhD or do research as a postdoc fellow. Okay, thank you. If you have any question, welcome to ask me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for Professor Ren. And maybe first of all, congratulations for your Epic Science Prize. It's very amazing. I will give you some clap. Okay, that's all for the presentation and introduction. And then Next, we will move to the discussion and question and answer section. So for all the participants in Zoom and maybe in our YouTube channel, if you have any question, please put it in the comment section, or now you can raise your hand and I will address you to ask your question directly. And maybe please don't forget to fill the attendance form in the comment section. It is already available now. So maybe anyone, any question? Please raise your hands. Okay. Okay. Maybe we can first address the question in the comment section. Maybe start from Prof. Jaka.
Okay, so question 1, interdisciplinary, meaning that if you have interdisciplinary teams, basically that will make your work stronger, so that your work can be published in a better platform, and it will definitely increase the visibility of the published work. That will be for question 1. For question 2, the challenges of online collaboration is that if we haven't met yet in person, then it's probably going to be a bit difficult, unless if probably we are introduced by somebody who know each other, then that will make it easy. But I mean, the difficulties will be in each party have to make consistent efforts to keep on getting the collaborations going on. I think that will be the most important things.
MC tanya.
Yes. The third one, how to start collaborative research between the university and reputed global universities. This one will be a bit blurred to answer, I guess. But I think from my perspective, it's research is mainly a collaborations between experts. So I mean, it's probably the way that I see that thing is that not based on the university, but based on the needs for the collaboration. So if I, for example, I need an expertise in this particular area, then I will try to approach that person. I hope that probably will answer the questions. It's probably a bit blurred, but that will be the opinion from my side, and I'm sure that Prof. Raymond, Prof. Guan, and Prof. Ren will be able to answer the other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Jaka, for your answer. Maybe Prof. Ren, Prof. Raymond, or Prof. Guan can add some of later. But I think there's some specific question for Prof. Guan in comment section. Maybe please, if you can, please address to the question, Prof. Guan.
Hello, Prof. Guan.
Okay.
Yeah. I have some
question about are there any research organizations from Japan that fund collaboration research and can help in funding and organizing seminars and symposiums? Yes, just maybe I didn't see in detail on the funding in Japan. In general, in Japan have several organizations. They provide the international collaboration fund. For example, the JSPS. JSPS is the how to say the main agency for the natural research, and they have a different fund. For example, between 2 countries or between 3 countries or several countries, they can give we should, how to say, organize teams, for example, from different countries. Of course, between Japan, for example, between Japan and Indonesia, every year have such kind of funding. You want to apply it, but only several can be supported. Another is for the GST. GST have many fund to support the collaboration between Japan and South Asia. For example, one program named the E-Program, E-Asia program. E-Asia program should have 3 countries, 3 groups from different countries. So for example, last year I also applied such kind of program with the professor from Thailand and one professor from Philippines. We applied the E-Asia program. This program, firstly, the different country. For example, this year, the Philippines said they have get that fund, but Thailand, I don't know how about the situation. So we try to get such kind of a program. And in general, such kind of program, they will support for 3 years. For the seminar funding also have many supported by different agencies, for GSPS, GST, and LEDO. And they also have many fund. Another big fund that's named SATREPS. SATREPS is should maybe between 2 countries, between, for example, Indonesia and Japan, or between Japan and Malaysia. So this is a big fund. Big fund maybe is over 10,000 billion. But this fund is not so easy to get. Every year, only 1 or 2 can get it. So another for the students, for some young researchers in Japan, you know, have one program, a GSPS postdoctoral fellowship. That's one month. It's about 30, maybe 3,600 Japanese yen. But every year they only support about 150 young researchers to do research in Japan. Another for the students, if you want to get the PhD degree or master degree or undergraduate or bachelor degree, the Japanese government scholarships. This scholarship every year, for example, in our university, every year we can get 1 or 2 students can get this kind of a scholarship. But for such kind of scholarship, you should pass the TOEFL or some. You should have some certification to show you have a high level of high English level. Of course, if your Japanese is good, it's also okay. For example, you can pass the level 1. Level 1 is the hardest, or level 2 is also okay if you want to to apply such kind of scholarship. But this scholarship, in Japan, they mainly support their students from South Asia or Africa or South America. For Chinese or Korea or Vietnam, it's very difficult to get such kind of scholarship. So if you have interesting, if some students have interest, you can contact me and I can help you to apply it. For young researcher, if you want to apply the GSPS fellowship, you can also contact me. I can apply for you. Yes, if you want to know in detail, please see the slide 28. They have a link. You can link it. You can know. They have many kind of fund. We can apply it together. Okay, it's okay.
Okay, it's very clear, Prof. Guan. Thank you very much for your answer. Maybe first we will move to Professor Raymond's question. Maybe have you found the question, Prof. Raymond?
Yes, I see two questions here addressed to me. Q4 is how can we better collaborate, write, and involve other people in research activities? The approach that I've used, there are two parts to this question. How do you begin the collaboration? And then how do you sustain the collaboration over many years or decades? To begin collaboration in my area, which is PSE, the basic approach is mixing and matching the solution procedures, for example, mathematical programming, pinch analysis, with the industrial problems. So on one hand, we have a set of tools that we can use to solve problems. On the other hand, we need to identify relevant current environmental problems that need a solution approach. So if you have 5 problems, you can come up with combinations of different problems and solution techniques and then apply those. And you can begin collaboration that way. Now, to sustain collaboration, really, as Prof. Jaka mentioned earlier, really requires establishing a degree of comfort and trust in your collaborator. And this is where I think it's important for us as researchers to think of what our teammates expect from us. And thus, it's very important, just like when you have a football team, every player must trust every other player on the team to do their share. So I think to sustain the collaboration, it's important to be responsive and be able to meet the deadlines, not to be the weak member of the team, but to be able to always deliver what is, even if you have a narrow and very specific contribution to a paper, it's very important that the other team members are able to rely on you to deliver your share of the work and to do it in a timely way. Now, the second question has to do with the impact of collaboration activities on learners. I think this is a very important component because we all work in what are research and educational institutions. So there are many ways by which students benefit from these collaborations. For instance, just by being exposed to multiple mentors who give different perspectives, that really improves the learning process for them. And if that's a PhD student, from recent experience, actually, the things that they learn from having multiple mentors can open career opportunities after they get their degrees. At the same time, they also learn specific skills. For example, how to do fast and efficient literature review, how to learn specific computing techniques, and they can learn that from different collaborators. And finally, just a point here is there's always a danger that a PhD student, or any research student for that matter, might become a clone of the mentor, especially if you have a strong personality and a single mentor. So this is where having hybrid training in the research lab is very useful, but by having 2 or 3 different mentors, you learn a larger skill set, which will make you a better researcher in the future. So thank you. Those are my responses.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Raymond, for your answer. And then maybe next, Prof. Ren. Good afternoon, Prof. Ren. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello. Yes, I can hear you. So I need to answer maybe question 7 and question 8. Yes. I see that question 7 and question 8 should be the same question. Okay. Okay, the first about how about the challenge posed by international collaboration and how the main barriers to get the West to successful in international collaboration. Okay, I can only share some of my humble opinions. Okay, on about this. Okay, from the perspective of a young researcher. So I think that the most important the most important challenge or the main barrier I have faced is that as a young researcher, maybe at the beginning, okay, if you would like to collaborate with some big guy, some well-known professor, okay, you must make them to trust and also make them to know the reason why they need to collaborate with you. For instance, okay, if I just a fresh PhD student, okay, I would like to collaborate with Professor Tan or Professor Guan, okay, they're very well-known professor, okay. I told them, okay, I would like to publish papers with Professor Tan and Professor Guan in Nature or in Science. They will ask me, okay, they may consider, okay, how you can collaborate, okay, with us, or what you can contribute, okay, in a paper published in Science or in Nature, okay. So this is the most important. So as a young researcher, so I suggest you guys can consider how you can make yourself more strong and also be honest, be sincere, and also be hardworking. Then you will have operated. Then step by step, I think that for instance, some well-known professors like Professor Guan, Professor Tan, they would like to collaborate with you because they think that you could be trusted and they believe in that, okay, you can do some work, okay, within the collaboration with them. So in one word, the most important is that at the beginning, how you can make yourself to be a skillful man with multiple expertise, and also how you can really contribute to others. So this is the most important. And also last but not the least, okay, you must have some collaborators, okay, with friendship with you. So you must be sincere and hardworking. These points are the most important. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Ren. That's
answer the questions.
Yes. Okay, maybe one question for all of the professors here. So maybe it's more about sharing your experience about maybe some problems during your cooperation with international collaborators or any research collaboration. For example, maybe about conflict of interest or funding or anything, or and maybe you can also share tips about how to prevent or minimize such problems. Maybe that's question for all of the professor. Maybe you can start from Prof. Prof. Jaka, if you have any experience.
I think I'll give it to a other professor, Prof. Raymond, Guan, or Prof. Ren, because they are more experienced than me.
Or perhaps I can contribute some of my experiences to the discussion. Research collaboration is a bit like meeting people and then becoming friends with them. Sometimes not all friendships work out properly, and sometimes the chemistry turns out to be wrong. Sometimes the chemistry turns out to be right, but you never really know whether it's wrong or right. So you have to try. And this is why some collaborations end with just one paper or sometimes 0 papers. Some of them could be many dozens of papers and over many years. But I think some of the problems that arise may be that the prospective partner doesn't deliver what he or she promises to the group, and therefore that causes the failure of a particular paper. Or sometimes during revisions, similarly, there may be a failure to respond to some of the criticisms that arise during review. And this is where, of course, just like with friendships in a social setting, an initial collaboration is rather like every member of the team scrutinizing or testing the other members, because you don't know each other, just know each other relatively superficially. You're judging based on how the work progresses. You can learn about each other and whether you would wish to continue the cooperation in the future or not. But my view here is that it needs to be done, because you cannot have collaborations without first experimenting and being open to meeting new people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but the failure is part of the process.
Thank you very much, Prof. Raymond, for your sharing of your experience. Or maybe Prof. Ren or Prof. Guan would like to add some experience.
Okay, for me, I think, if the problem I have ever faced, maybe Prof. Guan, you first, then I will add some, yeah.
Okay, first.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. For the conflict, maybe in Japan now, also in university, for the in Japanese, how to say there, security now is become more strict in Japan. For example, when we collaborate with some professor outside, we must sign the collaboration agreement. In it, there have many items. For example, when we have a new discovery or new result, when we apply the patent, we should apply the patent first. In this case, maybe some agreement should be signed between our partners. That's very important. Another, in Japan now, if we want to collaborate with professors in other countries, we always apply one. We should give some permission from the university. In university, have some special agents. They manage this, what we can do and what we should take care. They will give us some advices. In general, until now, we have no conflict of interest. In general, we always collaborate with some professor. We know them very well. Especially for some students, for example, if we want to publish one papers, in my case, if somebody, list my name as a co-author, I should check that paper carefully. And of course, I will give some comment. If you have some question, I must discuss with the author or with the co-authors together. I think that's important. If we don't do this, sometimes maybe we'll have some problems. Yeah, but until now, I didn't meet such kind of problems. So I think if we want to collaborate with each other, we should believe. We should do some real thing and not start our fabric something with. We should, because research for the study for research, we should take care many things. Yeah. For example, sometimes our partner also send some sample to me, let me analysis for them. In this case, we should discuss it in details. Of course, sometimes I also submit send some sample to outside for the analysis. Another for collaboration, sometimes everybody maybe the knowledge is limited. For example, for simulation, sometimes I also don't know it very well. In this case, if I ask do some simulation, I should discuss with them in details. So for me, I also do like this. Okay, yeah, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Guan, for your insight and answer. So next, Prof. Ren, would you like to?
Okay, thank you. I think it's almost a time for lunch. So I would like to shorten my talk, okay, because my stomach also told me it's time for lunch, okay. I would like to have two warm reminder for the young researcher during the international collaboration. The first is that, so how about the task assignment and also the authorship and also the order of the authorship. So I think you'd better have a frank, okay, negotiation or discussion with your collaborator at the beginning of your collaboration to how about the authorship, how about the authorship order, okay, so these are very important. Who will be the first author, second author, and also corresponding author? You should be very frank, have frank discussion with your collaborator. The second point is that you'd better find someone, okay, maybe who have very good relationship with you and ensure that you will have similar or same paths. Okay, I have ever have this kind of experience. I have collaborated with some researchers, okay, abroad. Okay, I have completed my part, but I need to wait half a year, okay, to wait them to complete their task, then to publish one paper. So I think that your speed or your pace will be significantly influenced. So the most important is that to ensure that your collaborator should have similar speed or pace with you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Ren, for your answer. Maybe next, Dr. Lucy will say something.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ginting. I see some participants already raised hand before me. I think the name is Amam Rahmat Hidayat, Amam Taufik Hidayat. Did you have any questions, Pak Amam? Hello? Oh no, I think he canceled the questions. So thank you, Prof. Ren, Prof. Guan, Prof. Raymond, Prof. Jaka also, and then also Prof. Raymond. I have some questions regarding your delivered talk today. The first question is about gap research between our country. So as you know, Indonesia is how to say is not advanced in research. We don't have any advanced tools or facility instead in BRIN. So yeah, we have BRIN for the provide the facility. So what do you think about the gap research between our country? That my first questions. And then the second question is, do we need to take a postdoc to build networking and research collaboration? Thank you very much for your answer.
Okay, that's a question from Dr. Lucy. Maybe any of the professor would like to give their opinions.
All right, perhaps I should start. Thank you, Dr. Lucy, for your question. For the first question, I'm speaking from the perspective of the Philippines, which is in terms of scientific productivity level and advancement, is quite similar to Indonesia. One of the ways the reasons I've managed to succeed would include I selected a research area which by its nature is not resource intensive. So you may want to venture into process systems engineering, which is dependent primarily on your brain. Of course, you still need some funding for software and computers and such, but not as much as in field that requires a hardware in your laboratory. Now, for the second question, even though a postdoc or similar research fellowship overseas is not absolutely essential, it is very helpful. My own experience, for example, when I went to the Netherlands in 2004, my core research area at the time was actually water integration or water conservation in industry. So I was suddenly working on carbon sequestration, which is not my main interest in 2004. But this is where we see that investing in your future through learning new things, new fields, is very important, because just a few years later, it became apparent to me that I should shift my research to carbon management. And I was able to use what I learned in those months I spent at the International Flame Research Foundation as a foundation for changing direction of my career. So it does help. Thank you very much.
Maybe from Prof. Ren or Prof. Guan or from Prof. Jaka, from your side or your point of view?
I agree with Prof. Raymond. I think postdoc is probably not, cannot say it's compulsory, but that will bring advantage to your research career, especially your perspective and the way that you do things. It's going to be much more refined, because you basically focus, but perhaps not in the same area as your PhD, but you really learn a lot, especially from your supervisors that probably has a different perspective, or you also can enhance your skills and capability in certain areas. So I think if there is a chance for postdocs or for overseas research experience, then that should be something that young researchers should do. That would be my opinion.
I think it's okay. From Prof. Guan or Prof. Ren?
Yeah. For my opinion, for young, if you are still young, I think it's possible you can have your parents to work a different group. Different group, you can learn more. You can, how to say, open your eyes and expand your research field. I think that's important for young researchers. For me, when I got my PhD degree in China, and in that at that time, my research field is about fluidization. Fluidization is just like a chemical engineering. After I graduate, I get a postdoc in Kyushu University in Japan. At that time, my purpose was to study more knowledge about fluidization. But when I came to Japan, my professor said now he didn't do any research on the fluidization. So he suggested me to start to do some research on the materials. So at that time, I don't know the material chemistry not well. So it's very difficult for me for the first year. But later I studied it, and because you know that for the engineering and the material is completely different field. But from that time, I find that I can do many things, not only for engineering, also can do some research on the chemistry. For example, I did some research on the gas separation using some zeolite membranes. Also do some research on the photocatalyst. And later, I had ever worked in a semiconductor research center in Japan. And in that institute, many companies, persons, and gather together to develop a new type of the semiconductor. At that time, I also learned more, but that institute, they don't allow to publish paper. But from that appearance, I know much about semiconductor industry, the situation on it. I know at that time, I know how to fabricate the 5 nanometer the chips like this. At that time, I do not do the process. I only develop one kind of materials for the 5 nanometer chips. So I always encourage a young researcher to study outside, and not only limit your knowledge. Yeah, I think that's very important. That's only my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Guan. Maybe for last, Prof. Ren will add something.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I totally agree to the points mentioned by Professor Jack, Professor Tan, and Professor Guan. Okay, so actually, if you are young, I would suggest you to go outside. Okay, my reason is that just like Professor Tan have mentioned, the 6 key points for the young researchers. I think that if you go outside to work as a postdoc fellow, this is benefit for all the 6 points mentioned by Professor Tan. Yeah. And also, the second is that when you are young, I think you should go outside because it's one way to increase your diversity of your life journey. So if I were not married, of course, I will go outside. I will not stay in Hong Kong. Okay, so of course, I think this is the best way to increase your own experience. You know how to communicate with different people. And if you work together with them, this is the best way to build your own, just like Professor Tan mentioned, your own professional network with friendship. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Ren. Now I think our time is limited and over. So thank you very much for Prof. Jaka, Prof. Raymond, Prof. Guan, and Prof. Ren, and also to Dr. Lucy, and all of the participants. I hope our discussion will bring benefit for us, for our institution, and for our country. So maybe that will be all from me today. My apologies for any mistake. I will give it back to Mrs. Mutia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ginting, and thank you for once again for all guest speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, let me to take picture once again for the last event. For everyone, please turn on your camera and use the virtual background that available in comment box. We start from slide 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay. The next slide. 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay. The last one. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you everybody. We move for giving appreciation to special guests and guest speaker. We will give the certificate. The certificate for Professor Jaka Narso.
This is for Professor Guo Xingguan. This is for Professor Raymond Tan. And this is for Associate Professor Jing Zhengren. Okay, that is all from me. I'm sorry if there is a shortage. Finally, see you at the next World Class Professor Series 3 at the next week. Thank you very much, everybody, and good afternoon.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you for the attention and listening to today's meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Jaka. Thank you, Prof. Ren, Prof. Raymond, Prof. Guan. Good afternoon. And may you have a great day ahead.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Good to meet all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Prof.